Well, hello there. How's it going? As always, Thursday, 11 a.m. It's time to kick off another RCS Live. As always, I'm Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering, hanging out with you, answering your questions live in real time. So here's the deal. Today, we're going to talk about G Selector in Zetta. Remember, this is a very flexible and scalable piece of software, which means that we can work ahead when we want to. We're so used to working in this world in radio where it's now, 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 now. And if you're like me when I was a PD, it was always like November 24th. And I was like, oh, I have to work my Christmas logs tomorrow. And so the idea here is I'm trying to help you don't do what I did back when I was a PD. And remember to work smarter, not harder. And part of that is understanding that you can work ahead in your G Selector and your Zetta environment by creating these mini logs and shows, or scheduling them with G Selector, or having your Christmas music ahead of time as well. So I have my, let's see here. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter Live. If you're ever there, you have some questions for me, go ahead and ask away. I have my chat open here as well. I did notice a very odd streaming error when I went today. So if there's any issues, let me know. Otherwise, you can check out past videos on our archive. That's rcsworks.com/RCS-live. So just be aware, part of the thing I'm going to talk about today, especially on the G Selector side with Christmas music and holiday programming, we have past videos on our archive there. Just look at the holiday programming with G Selector. It's going to help you out there. We're going to stick to more towards of the kind of year-end shows right now on the Zetta side, but this still applies to G Selector as well. Again, those holiday programming videos are on our archive. You can see the link down below, rcsworks.com/RCS-live. And we'll be out and about as well. Don't forget, we're going to be at NAB in New York. I'll be there. It's a nice little short train ride away for me. We'll be there on a Wednesday and Thursday walking around. If you're going to be there, reach out to me or to whoever your RCS contact is, and we'll be there. We'll walk around. We'll do an impromptu meeting, talk about whatever product you want to talk about, any kind of tips and tricks you want to talk about. And essentially, don't worry, we got you covered. That's the idea. And that's going to be at NAB for the fall show. What's that? Next Wednesday and Thursday? I know we're going to plan on doing RCS Live from the floor as well next Thursday, just so you know. Cool. So let's see. Quick things. Housekeeping. Don't forget to check out your backups and your data exchanges. We are hiring. We're actually expanding some really cool products here, especially in our sister station, a sister product with MediaBase. We're looking for a couple opportunities there as well. There's a full list. To go to rcsworks.com, the About Us careers. You can check those out over there. Some really great opportunities to jump in here with RCS. Let's see here. Hashtag Studio Spotlight. Don't forget to check out our Studio Spotlight. Be part of the Studio Spotlight as well. Thank you. We're going to post that here. That's the link there, rcsworks.com/careers, right? And of course, you want to be featured in our Studio Spotlight. Email marketing@rcsworks.com. And we have a great poll that we take to every single week after these sessions on our social media platform. So feel free to vote in our poll as well. We love seeing what you've digested from these videos here too. And you can send those photos for hashtag Studio Spotlight to marketing@rcsworks.com. Thanks, Felicia. Awesome. So let's dive right in here and talk about holiday programming. So the point of this video is how to work ahead, right? That's the idea here. So now, obviously, when we have the Zetta and G Selector Enterprise solution that includes multiple stations as well as date ranges. And one of the things we can do in Zetta and in G Selector is there's really no restriction on how far into the future we can schedule our music logs, right? So there's kind of the first basic concept I like showing users. What do we mean by working ahead? And we look at these shows and mini logs here. Shows and mini logs, the only difference is that mini logs include timestamp materials like spot blocks. Those are typically used for like sporting events and any kind of syndicated programming, whereas shows is more of kind of a user-driven show. Think of it as like a mini log has song, spot block, song, whereas a show might have a song. Then we schedule an independent spot block returning back to the show. There's a couple ways you can do that. We can help you out too by, of course, always calling up to support or emailing support@rcsworks.com. But because we can scale this and we can work ahead, the question becomes, right? let's pretend for a second on a smaller scale. I am Nate. I have a specialty jazz show that runs every Saturday morning, right? Now the question becomes is I can always go into Saturday's log on 10:15 and voice track and build out that log. Or the question becomes is I would like to go and do my log for, let's say in this case, Saturday 10:22, but as you can see, the log for Saturday 10:22 isn't there yet. So how do I, Nate, work ahead if I don't have access to the log that is scheduled for my program or music director? And that's when we start to utilize the shows and the mini logs, right? That's what we're doing here. So as you can tell, there's nothing stopping you right now from starting your Christmas music, your holiday music, or more specifically, those year-end countdowns, those specialty shows, the A to Z. We've all been there. I know that, again, me too. It was always like the last week after Christmas into the new year. I was like, hey, you know what? I built this 4-hour show. Let's repeat it a whole bunch of times. Let's take a break on the music logs and let's make this specialty programming fly, right? I'm so used to it. I get it. So my idea is encouraging you, empowering you to that you can do this now, right? That's the idea. So how can we do it? There's shows and their mini logs. All we have to do here, I'm just going to kind of just go with mini logs. I have a couple already built here, right? Is I just open this. Actually, let's do a brand new one. We'll just do a brand new mini log here. I hit the little plus icon. You can see, give a name. Let's call this RCS Live, right? We can give an external ID. That's me for G selector reference if you want to do that. So if I ever wanted to say call for this in the G selector log, I can call this RCS Live, something like that, right? And then, of course, I have here, this is my workspace. This is what I want to add. We can simply go to, let's say, the songs here, right? And search for the songs, and I can just left click. Remember, work smarter. I can do control click, drag some songs over. I can search for them too if I wanted to. Let's say I just want to go and just say, I don't know, something like search for Beyonce, something like that, right? Okay, there's my Beyonce song. Great. And now let's drag it over. Now I want to find, I don't know, a guitar rock song or something. You can see I have a guitar pop as my sound code. I'm searching there. I'll put Chasing Cars in here. And you're like, wait a second, I got Justin Bieber, Lord, Weekend, Beyonce. I'm going to move Snow Patrol, move it up, something like that. Oh, and by the way, I have some special imaging here as well. So I'm going to my RCS links here. I'm going to grab we'll just do a Zetta high tech, and we'll do a high tech in there. And then, I also have to, now I'm working in here. I also have to voice track as well. Let's maximize this workspace. Let's go into Mood Ring. Let's open our voice tracker. This is specific, of course, to our mini log. I'm working a little fast here for time purposes. So if you have any questions for me, let me know. But I thought I just want to show you how you can work within this window, right? And then we're going to apply these techniques to whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to voice track now into Mood Ring. Click on this. Hey, this is Mood Ring. I can do my typical voice tracking. Don't forget, there's a full archive over at rcsworks.com/rcs-live, the maximizing voice track for 2022. All right, so there's my little voice track there, right? I can save this if I wanted to. I can also go back and do any changes if I wanted to, right? So I can go back here. You can see I can open that segue editor. I can go in that voice tracks right there. I can go and move this nice and neat and clean here. Save that if I wanted to. Whatever you want to the heads and tails. The typical set trim in, trim out, volume points. Those are in there too. We have some past videos like this. So again, as I said, I'm moving fast just to get a lot of this information in here for you. Now that voice track is specific to this transition, which is specific to this mini log, which has not been scheduled. So when I bring in this actual element, it's going to bring in the voice tracks. It's going to lock in those timestamps, and boom, we're going to be good to go. We can play this entire asset, right? This is my little mini log here. Important to know, if I close this and go back to my mini logs here, there's my RCS Live, double click it. It will reset. That's intentional, just so you know. And then from there, I can move this over to the right. And while we're here, I thought, you know what? I had this in my notes for a while. Why don't we create an emergency playlist while we're at it, right? Just because that always happens, whatever reason, just an emergency playlist. I'm going to hit a brand new one here. Hit that plus. I'm going to call this emergency playlists, right? And I'm going to drag this over here to the right-hand side. And I'm going to grab, I don't know, I'll just pick 7 p.m., right? And actually, it's a bad example. I got voice tracks in here. I don't want to do that. So we'll pick 2 p.m., right? Better, but we'll still. All right, I'm going to highlight this guy here. Go to the very end of the top of the hour. I'm going to left click, drag it over. Boom. Just like that, I have an entire hour worth of music. It's the same exact hour that's scheduled normally. I have an emergency playlist. This is 1 hour, but if you wanted more, you can do more if you wanted to as well. This is just a 1 hour emergency playlist I can create on the fly using a mini log. It's saved. It's done. We have an emergency playlist ready to go. How's that? Pretty cool, right? Again, you can start to see how we introduce these basic concepts and we compound them to have some really cool workflows. So again, we're working ahead here. I'm doing my jazz show that's on 10/22. I'm going ahead and building that year-end countdown, whatever it is. I can go over here, and again, there's my RCS Live. We've already voice tracked in here. We've segued elements. We have special top of the hour IDs and imaging and all that stuff. And boom, we are good to go. At this point in time, this RCS Live is here. It's ready. It looks good, right? We have no issues there, right? And in fact, what I might do is I might just jump here for a quick second, show you the shows as well. I have a Nate 1, 2, 3, 4 as a show that I have in previous examples here, right? So there's a show. If I double click on it, just to show you visual, it's the same exact thing. And the only difference there is I can't include like macros and spot blocks and stuff like that. Timed elements. That's the difference, right? So I have my show. I have my mini log. They're there. They're good to go. So I know that my talent has their show ready to go. But as a program director, I need to know how to get that show in there, right? So it's pretty simple. I can just go to, let's say, 10 o'clock at night tonight, go to my mini log. There's my RCS Live. I'm going to left click and drag it in right here at the top of the hour. And it's going to say, hey, you're about to drop in a mini log that's going to impact the schedule. Do you want to continue? You say yes. Now check this out. It's going to essentially auto-populate your entire mini log, and then it's going to skip the rest of the hour. That's intentional because you're saying take this log and replace it with the log for this hour that is already there. This is especially important for games with rain delays or any type of delay. Because you'll notice, remember, in Zetta, we have the concept of skipped, not delete. Because how do you know that one random user deleted something without running a report? So instead, you can see here that I have all these shows here. And of course, it is not played. It's been skipped. If I have an issue with something that's going on, I could always go into this exact show. I can skip the show if I wanted to, and then bring back these other elements into the log if I wanted to. There's some really cool things you can do there with skipping and delays and stuff like that. Again, that's just want to show you some behavior, but there's usually typically an advanced workflow there if you have a rain delay or something with the game, because we can go and just do some triggers and stuff like that. But you can see there's ways to enable it, skip it, and go on from there too. Some really cool things you can do in regards to the drag and drop of the RCS Live and the mini logs and the shows, right? That's just a typical, hey, this could be a short term. I got my jazz show. I'm going to pick on, I'm just going to use, let's see, who's paying attention today. I forgot to open my Facebook here. I'll just pick on Brian for right now. So let's say Brian, for example, right? Brian's my talent. So Brian goes to me and says, I did my jazz show Saturday morning. I worked ahead, and you know what? I'm sick. I'm not doing well. Can you feel free to drag in that show? You can go here like we just did and say, okay, you're sick. No problem. I have your show here. I could have maybe a stock show, an emergency show, going back to the emergency playlist, if you will. We could take an existing show and drag and drop it in if we wanted to. Some stuff like that, right? The idea is that we're scheduling a show for Saturday. Then we're on the later end, we're saying, okay, play that show on an actual date like 10/22. See the difference? It's a subtle little difference, but it's important to note when you're working ahead on your music logs. So at that point in time, we can just drag into the log, fine, dandy. But if it's a reoccurring thing, right? It's a reoccurring show. Well, in that case, I can go back to my G selector here. I have my clock structure already built up. There's Nate's show. And you can see I have a control event. That's what that is there, a control event. The description is a Zetta show. I then go over here, the info, and say play the Nate 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course, now if I want to mix it up here, let's say for that year-end countdown, whatever it is, I can always put it together, do a spot block, put it together. Again, the info field is most important here. That's what we care about. Put the same external ID that we have here in Zetta. So this guy right here has to be the same as it is over here in the info field. That's how we achieve that match, that handshake from G Selector to Zetta. And think about this for a second, right? If we really wanted to, if we have a Zetta show, and we'll just say simple, it's like, I don't know, 30 minutes. Well, we'll keep it. All right. So let's say 25, 5 minutes of spots, 25, 5 minutes of spots. And you have, let's say one segment is 24 minutes. And the next one is like 32 minutes, or that's exaggeration. But you know what I mean? What I'm getting at here is you can stretch and squeeze those individual assets in here for these shows, right? So I can go and say, like, stretch and squeeze this one here, right? Stretch this guy and stretch this guy, so that even though you're a couple seconds off on both those shows, you're not worrying about that network mentality where it has to be exactly 25:00. You can get away with a year-end countdown that's like 24 and 18 seconds versus 25 and 48 seconds, something like that. We can still do stretch and squeeze on that there, right? The idea is that we just have an exact time marker, whatever's in the middle, we stretch and squeeze to that point, right? This is pretty basic, but again, we can help you design that too with an easy call to support. We'll help you outline that, or you can build it yourself here as well. And once that show is made, by the way, there's nothing stopping you. I'm not going to say my clock changes on that one. Nothing stopping you from clocks, assignment, and overrides. Clocks, assignment, overrides. You can see here as a little test from earlier. You can say on this time, go ahead here and run the Nate show clock. So this is where we have our default normal grid, but we're saying run the Nate's year-end countdown show or an out-of-order show, whatever it is. Run it, Sunday, 6 to 10, Monday, 10 to 4, Tuesday, 4 to 8, stuff like that. And you can just block out those 4 hours every so often as well, if you wanted to. And by the way, you could, if you really wanted to, with G Selector's flex clocks, just saying, you can create one 4-hour show and schedule it across the board. Stuff like that too. So many ways you can do that here in G Selector. Some really cool stuff, right? And then, by the way, if I really, really wanted to, I just want to show you this just for the example. I'm going to jump to 11 o'clock at night here. You can see I have a little Zetta show, right? And if I just kind of, I have a lot of metadata here to show you, but you can see there's that info column here. There's always an option. You can always add a show if you wanted to manually. Now, I could work smarter and harder and copy and paste. You can see there's my Zetta mini log up there with the spot blocks there. But what I can also do is, I believe, what is it? Insert other, and I can do a control event, and I can go over here and type a show, a Zetta show, highlight in there. So there's my Zetta show. Nothing has happened yet because this Zetta show is merely just a placeholder until I go over here into the info field, which is right there. And I type in Nate, there we go, Nate 1, 2, 3, 4, hit OK. Once we do that, boom, that show is now there and locked. I go back to my Zetta and go back to 10, which see there is my Nate's show with 21 events. Look at that. Boom, we can expand it. There's all the previous events we had in there as well. Some really cool stuff you can do in regards to scheduling and shows. So let's review here so far. We are talking about working ahead or logs, right? There's no restrictions in Zetta and G Selector how far you can schedule in the future. In addition, if you had a specialty show that runs outside the context, I can always go in on Saturday, in this example here, I can go on Saturday 10:15 and I can work on my log structure because the log is there. However, I can't work on Saturday 10:22 because there's nothing there yet. I can always work ahead in a show or mini log and drag that into 10:22 when that log is complete, right? In the same fashion, why can't you do a year-end countdown right now, have ready to go in your shows and mini logs? You can totally do that if you wanted to as well. You can even create an emergency playlist if you wanted to. Highlight the hour, copy in here, make an emergency playlist, make an emergency show if you wanted to do that as well. A lot of things you can do there, right? And let's see here. The last thing I want to show you is Two things. Number one, a little gotcha for you. If I go into Nate's show, this 21 events here, if I drag it into the log or I schedule it into the log, and after it is scheduled, I make a change to that show or mini log, that change is not reflected into the Zetta log intentionally because you did not schedule that asset in the log. You schedule it in the show itself. A little bit different behavior there. You can always just re-drag the mini log back in and you'll see the new change there as well. Just so you know, a little mini gotcha there, because we don't want to have somebody schedule something and then, blow it all out when it's already in the log structure. We don't want to do that, right? And let's see here. I want to go back to my Zetta to go. Just a refresher, Zetta to go is made to enhance the Zetta experience, not replace the Zetta experience. So what you can do now in Zetta to go is we do have the function of mini logs. So I can go over here and have let me refresh this library here. I did see it there. Sorry. It was there. I saw my RCS live. I'm just blind. There's my RCS live, right? You can see there's my elements here. I can still go back to my songs while working in Zetta to go. I can search by my entire library. I can find a song here, left click and drag it in, and I can adjust this mini log here if I wanted to on Zetta to go. But you'll notice there is no option to voice track in the mini log on Zetta to go. So you could get creative. You can do a drop if you wanted to on Zetta to go. And then, you can do a voice track, either a record directly into Zetta to go, or you can do a, Adobe Audition or something like that and just copy and paste it in. And then you can do over here and then worry about the segues later. There's ways around it. You can do workarounds, but just a heads up, you can edit the mini log here. You can record into the mini log here into Zetta to go, just so you know. But that's a cool feature because you can start curating some music if you wanted to, right? So if you're building a year-end countdown and let's say you don't have access to the production studio because it's being utilized by a client who's recording in right now, there's nothing stopping you from going on your desk, opening up Zetta to go, start taking some of that music and start building the playlist of that year-end countdown to then go. And when you get access to the production studio, properly record your voice tracks in between the songs. Make sense? Right? Last call for questions here. Any last call for questions, let us know. I'll do a recap here. Again, the idea is working ahead. Don't be like me as a program director. Don't wait to the last minute and all of a sudden look up and look at your calendar and go, what have I done? I got to do all this work in a short period of time. Now's the time to work ahead for your Thanksgiving, your Christmas holiday logs. There's nothing stopping you from building your year-end countdowns, your A to Z weekends, whatever it is. Work ahead. Remember, work smarter, not harder. That's the purpose of these RCS live videos. You can also check out some past videos on our archive, rcsworks.com/rcs-live. Look for keywords like holiday programming in G Selector. We'll show you how to do that as well, more descriptive on the actual programming side. And then, of course, thank you very much, Felicia. We'll be at the NAB Fall Show in New York. That is Wednesday and Thursday, October 19th and 20th. I will check out you there. So if you want to reach out to me and say hi, talk about some stuff, I'll be walking around my laptop and my little tech bag. If we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, I'll be there too. So thank you so much for checking this out. As I said, next Thursday, we'll be live at NAB. I'll check in from there on the NAB floor. Otherwise, check out our archive, and I'll see you next Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time for another RCS Live.